Now, for 2025, I mean, the industry have seen a lot of conversations, a lot of changes. Some people are ahead of the change, trying to figure out that reimagining their business, as Lamar would say from Cirque du Soleil. And also, some people are three categories. I put them in three categories. One trying to invent the business. One is trying to make the absolutely necessary changes so they can sustain it. And the third category probably is saying, it's not my turn yet. I'm happy with the customer cluster that I have.
Mm.
I don't need to do much at this point. I'm not sure if from the changes that you've seen in the industry in 2025, can we talk a little bit about that from your perspective? What's your highlights from the changes in 2025 for the industry?
Mm. It's been a struggle, I would say, for a lot of the smaller companies. Very small language services companies have been struggling to make the change. And I want to be clear that it's not for a lack of desire or will. It's really just a lack of resources generally, and occasionally a clear direction or a framework for the change. I would say the medium-sized companies are having a better time adapting. They're still small enough to be nimble, but they're big enough to have some resources. Funny enough, some of the biggest companies that like you might know this, but that have tons of resources are a little bit more like an aircraft carrier when it comes to change. So it's harder to pivot, even if they've got the vision for it, which most of them do. And so I would say you outlined three buckets, and I would say we don't see that many in that last bucket, which is to say folks that are like, it's all good. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. If that's the case, they're probably planning on exiting the market, retiring, in the next 2 to 3 years, because that's not sustainable. And I think most folks know that.
So if you were to put a label on 2025, what would that be, Allison?
A singular label, boy, I'm not that good at coming up with things on the spot like that.
It doesn't need to be a singular label, but just
Yeah,
maybe a
yeah.
sentence.
Um,
Are we still going through that transformational?
Yeah. I think you've heard people who know about the hype cycle of, let's talk about AI, because that's what it's about. They say that we're now in the trough of disillusionment, which I think is really funny. But what that means is that you're beginning to get real about expectations. I think we're not there yet. I think some enterprises and clients still have unrealistic expectations for when it comes to language. But you've now got folks that are starting to have a clearer sense of direction and purpose, maybe beginning to understand the paths that are in front of them, whether or not they're going to become specialists in a particular, service or a particular vertical, how they're going to change their portfolios. So I would say, again, we're still in that evolutionary, adaptive stage, except I'm sensing a little bit more optimism than this time last year.